Welcome! So today, we're doing something a little different. I want you to think of me as your personal anatomy tutor. We're going to tackle the pelvic girdle, but with a fun challenge to really test your knowledge. You ready for this? Okay, let's just dive right in. You've probably seen a hip x-ray before, right? It can look like this. Well, like an indecipherable puzzle of gray and white shapes. But what if you could actually read it? What if you knew exactly what a doctor is searching for? Well, today, we're going to start decoding that puzzle, piece by piece. And here's exactly how we're going to do it, with the X-ray challenge. This is your chance to really play along. I'll show you an X-ray, point to different parts, and your job is to name them before I reveal the answer. Let's see how you do.
All right, here it is. This is our subject. It's a standard AP or anteroposterior view of the pelvis. This is one of the most fundamental images in all of medicine. You can see it's covered in numbers, and we are going to work through some of the most important ones together.
Okay, the quiz officially begins now. And hey, remember, no pressure here. This isn't graded, it's really all about learning, and maybe having a little fun along the way. Let's get started.
Let's kick things off at the very top, with what I think is a pretty easy one. Take a look at the structure labeled with the number 1. See how it forms that big, curved upper border of the hip bone? What do you think that is? I'll give you a second. And the answer is the iliac crest. Did you get it? You can see it so clearly on both the X-ray and the labeled diagram. You know, this is the ridge you can actually feel when you put your hands on your hips. It's a major, major landmark in anatomy. So, how'd you do on the first one? Feeling warmed up? Good. Let's move on to our next landmark. If you follow that iliac crest forward, you get to the point labeled with the number 5. This is another really important bony point. What's its name? Take a moment to think. That little point is the anterior superior iliac spine. Yeah, it's a mouthful, so everyone just calls it the ASIS for short. You can often feel this as a sharp, bony spot right on the very front of your hip. Clinicians use it constantly as a reference point for things like measuring leg length. Super useful.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit to the joint itself, because this is where all the action happens. Look at the structure marked with the number 6. This is the actual socket of that classic ball and socket hip joint. Any idea what we call it?
That is the acetabulum. Fun fact, its name comes from the Latin word for little vinegar cup, which is just a perfect description of its shape, right? This deep socket is where the head of the femur fits, and it's what gives the hip its incredible range of motion. Honestly, without a healthy acetabulum, you just don't have a working hip. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. We've been looking at bony landmarks, now let's look at a joint. Check out the area labeled number 4, kind of towards the center. This is where the pelvis literally connects to the spine. What's this crucial joint called? That is the sacroiliac joint, or the SI joint. And the name tells you everything you need to know. It connects the sacral part, the sacrum from the spine, to the iliac part, the ilium of the pelvis. This joint is unbelievably strong. It has to be. It's designed to transfer the entire weight of your upper body right down to your legs. Let's zoom back out to the bigger picture again. Number 2 is pointing to that entire large, wing-like section of the hip bone. We've already named a couple of its landmarks, but what is the whole bone itself called? That whole thing is the ilium. It is the largest and highest of the 3 bones that actually fuse together to form the complete hip bone. So when we were talking about the iliac crest and the ASIS earlier, those are really just important features on this one massive bone. All right, let's move down to the bottom of the pelvis. Take a look at number 11. I'll give you a hint. If you're sitting down right now, you are putting all of your pressure on this exact spot. So what is it?
That would be the ischium. More specifically, that rough, thick part on the bottom is the ischial tuberosity, but it has a much better nickname, the sitting bone. I mean, it doesn't get more practical than that, right? It's literally the bone that bears your weight when you sit down.
Okay, here we are, our final question. Look right at the front, dead center in the midline of the body, at the joint labeled number 12. This little guy connects the 2 halves of the pelvis. What do we call it? That is the pubic symphysis. It's a special type of cartilaginous joint, which means it allows for just a tiny bit of movement. And this plays an absolutely critical role during childbirth when hormones allow it to become more flexible and help widen the whole pelvic outlet. Pretty amazing stuff. So, how did you do? Hey, whether you aced it or are just learning this for the first time, the really important thing now is putting it all together. Let's connect these pieces and look at the big picture. Looking at this diagram here, you can really see how all those different landmarks we pointed out fit together. The iliac crest, the ASIS, the ischium. In an adult, these aren't separate things. They're all just parts of one big, complex bone called the os coxa, which is just the fancy name for the hip bone.
So each one of your hip bones is formed by 3 parts that fuse together as you grow up. You've got the ilium, which is that big wing on top. You have the ischium, the part in the back and on the bottom that you sit on. And then you have the pubis, which is in the front and on the bottom. And the coolest part? They all meet and fuse together right in the center of the acetabulum, that little vinegar cup socket. It is just a brilliant piece of natural engineering.
So, that was a fun quiz, I hope. But why does any of this actually matter? What's the real-world importance of being able to spot these structures on an X-ray?
Well, it matters because this is the actual language of medicine. When a doctor or a radiographer looks at an image like this, they need to instantly recognize all these parts. That's how they spot the things that are wrong: a fracture from a car accident, a dislocated hip, or the subtle signs of arthritis. Knowing the normal anatomy is always the first and most critical step to diagnosing the abnormal.
And that brings us to the end. But I want to leave you with one final thought to really chew on. Now that you can identify these landmarks, try to think like a clinician. We talked about that sacroiliac joint and how its whole job is to transfer weight. So based on that function, what kind of common injuries or chronic conditions do you think might affect it? It's the perfect way to start applying what you've just learned. Thanks for taking on the challenge.